How are you today, Ruby?
I'm good. I'm good. It's actually a really lovely day in Berlin. Really sunny and springy outside. How's it in London?
Yeah, it's a beautiful day. So that's yeah, really nice. A
Yeah,
big difference.
this 6 p.m. time of day in spring, like when the days have just gotten a bit longer, really is the best.
Are you at home or in your studio?
I'm at home, but now my home kind of is my studio as of the last.
Yeah.
Um, okay,
You ready?
I'm ready.
Hi, Ruby. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us this Sunday afternoon. This is my first digital conversation, but I'm really, really happy to be here to celebrate the launch of my latest Montclair collection. And we thought a really nice way to do that was for me to have a discussion with Ruby here, who's an incredible florist that we actually collaborated before on a project with Montclair. And today she's going to do an amazing workshop to kind of show how my inspiration, which was originally translated into fabrics for the collection, she's going to translate into an arrangement.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
very nice. It's been a long time since I saw you in Paris last year, but I'm really happy to be here with you again today.
Yeah, no, me too. So, I thought it could be nice to explain a little bit about the current collection, which was kind of originally inspired by a little bit of kind of movement, which is something which is really important to me in Montclair, but also the fact that Montclair is set in nature and the outdoors and it's against the elements. So I interject a lot of nature into it. And with this particular collection, it was influenced by dance and movement, and
Cool.
that came from the idea of a little bit of Fellini film. But when it actually came to the florals, I wanted to create kind of these prints that were almost like old masters, almost
Right.
old Dutch paintings.
Yeah,
And I thought that could be a really nice starting point for your arrangement. So yeah.
totally. I mean, your work has obviously got a really special perspective on nature, which is, it's quite romantic, but there's also something a little bit, you know, dark, or it's feminine, but it's not really, too feminine. It's got an edge to it, and it's a perspective I really appreciate. And I think it's quite similar to how we, perceive nature at Mary Lennox. It's not, yeah, it's springy, but at the same time, it's something a little bit more unseen and interesting about it. And that was kind of my inspiration doing the sourcing for the flowers today.
Mhm.
Um, I have kind of a bit of a multiple choice thing for you. How we're going to construct this arrangement together is I've got a greater selection of flowers that I found inspiring, particularly regarding the collection with Montclair. And I was hoping I could show you a few options and you could help me curate the arrangement.
Yeah, sounds amazing.
Okay. So starting off, I usually like to have a couple of little vases on the table. I don't really like to have like one big bouquet. I like to have things that I can play around with and that change over the course of the arrangement. And I usually start off with a face flower. So this is kind of the bulk of the arrangement, the most special thing you've got. And I was hoping you would choose between peonies and garden roses for the face flower.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, I feel like I love peonies and they are in one of the prints, but I think the garden rose today, I'm very proud that my own roses in the back garden have actually just bloomed. So I think it has to be the garden rose, I think would be beautiful.
It's a beautiful choice. I got these really beautiful locally grown garden roses, so they were also from a garden. Much nicer than like a rose that you can get, imported. Um, I start off by putting the face flower in the largest vase, and
Yeah, I love what I think is so well. Actually, some roses really remind me of my granny and granddad's house in the countryside in Ireland in Burr County Offaly. They used to have roses around that they lived in a bungalow and they like 1950s and they used to have all roses around it. And Ireland is a huge inspiration to me in my work always. I'm half Irish, half Chinese, and it's that I always find if I feel a personal connection to something, when I translate that into my work, I like to think people can feel some of the weight of that as well. Um, but yeah, and especially yellow roses, I think also remind me of home.
The yellow rose is one of my favorite things because, I mean, red rose is a little bit maybe too, romantic, but I think there's something about a yellow rose that is really quite like springy, but also, yeah, I think it's unusual in a way. It's not something that you see every day. So once I've filled the big vase, I also like to put like a little bit of the face flower at the front just to kind of carry the flowers through. And it's really important to leave kind of, some air in the arrangement so, it doesn't feel too dense. Um, so
Yeah.
what kind of roses do you have growing in your garden? Do you have like a beautiful sprawling English rose bush or?
We have, I have a very beautiful pale pink English rose. I have
Okay.
one yellow rose, which actually was when I moved into this house was like the only kind of remaining um, blooming flower in the garden, which
Okay.
hasn't actually bloomed yet. And but I've got some beautiful English roses that just smell amazing. And I also wanted to share with people like some of my books today. And actually, speaking of roses, this is one of my oldest but favorite books, which is the David Sims Roses. And it was for Visionaire, and it's just these amazing photographs, which I think they look so painterly. And what I really love is that not only did he capture the roses, but also the decay, which I love. Like I nearly always let flowers go as far as they can because I think the whole journey of them decaying is really beautiful as well. So that was one of the books that I had here today. Another was hold on one moment. Um, this is an amazing book on roses as well, which is very much this is all illustrations. So actually, this isn't a million miles away from your yellow garden rose. But I kind of love that, obviously it's nature and it's a natural thing, but I think that if it's illustrated or if it's photographed, I think it's really powerful that you can almost smell it through the page. Or like in this case, I wanted to do it through fabrication that some were printed, but then they were trapped inside tulle to almost give kind of a fragility, which I
Yeah.
also think is what's so beautiful about flowers, the decay, the fragility. Like you said, it's not just the sweetness and the femininity, it's all the other facets around it.
Perhaps even more beautiful than, the prettiest flower, the flower that's decayed a little bit. I find it super poetic and it's also a massive inspiration for the work we do at Mary Lennox. Next thing I wanted to ask you, because we're ready to move on, is a texture flower. So this is kind of to fill in like this area of the arrangement. And I have two options for you. One is like a lily of the valley, very
Beautiful.
sweet, and one's like a butter lemon sweet pea.
Oh my god, I'm so torn because I love sweet peas, and I've just actually planted my first sweet peas that have not come out. Um, but I feel like the lily of the valley would be beautiful in the arrangement. What do you think?
Stunning. Lovely choice. So just wanted to give a quick tip about flower care while I'm doing it. When you're preparing your flowers, you should always cut your stems on an angle just because it helps them drink more. Um, all right, so I'm going to now put the lily in.
My sweet peas don't look as beautiful as your sweet peas. They're in a Guinness pint glass.
I mean,
But
I like those touches as well, to be honest. So in my kind of medium vase, I put the texture flower because the lily should just be kind of bridging the roses and the other vases. I have a beautiful, I mean, you can't even imagine how this smells. It's so lovely. So in the medium vase and the small vase, I kind of thread the lily through because these vases in the end should kind of look like they're flowing into each other. I mean, movement's really important in flower arrangements as well, obviously, and a massive inspiration to the work we do too.
because I remember when we worked together in Paris, you did this amazing, was it almost baby's breath?
Yeah, it was baby's breath.
Yeah, and what was amazing about it was the movement and how you translated it almost into a sculpture. And that's when I first got to know your work. It was the fact that they had this amazing sculpture quality to them. I just thought was so amazing because with that comes so much strength. And then the balance of the fragility of the flowers with them. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, it's almost how we communicate with each other within the team is like we're kind of moving our hands around and stuff when we're directing each other. It is like a composition of movement somehow. And it's such a beautiful pairing when it's with, other design mediums as inspiration because, I've found so much inspiration in your, photo projects and in the work you do in store. I think it's just stunning and lovely. And I know you've done a lot of beautiful projects with dried flowers as well. So I feel like we speak the same language. I'm going to add a touch of the sweet pea just because it's really actually lovely. But next thing I'm going to ask you is I want a little what I would call the gesture flower. So this is kind of what makes the arrangement feel like it's floating away. I have two options for you. Baby's breath, which you know quite well from our project in Paris, and this wild carrot, which is quite similar, but it's got these kind of star-shaped heads.
Oh, I love the wild carrot. Actually, I wonder, is this wild carrot? I have one, I clipped these from the garden, and maybe it's the same.
Very similar, potentially of the same family. That looks denser than my one, but it could be.
Yeah, maybe they're cousins.
Maybe they're cousins, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to take the wild carrot through the arrangement, kind of, to make its own little story within the other flowers. Sorry, I've got my stuff all spread out. I have to keep walking back and forth.
No worries. It's so nice to see it all coming together. But no, like saying there, yeah, like we've done a lot of really nice projects where originally my kind of first big installation was for Dover Street Market when it was still on Dover Street. And it was, we made this huge, the collection had been inspired by when I was a teenager and this kind of lane behind my house and those kind of real, like raw, almost naive teenage emotions. And I made a collection kind of fueled by that. And then when Dover Street offered me the window, and this was, I'd only really, I think I was in my second year of working. And he said, what would you like to do for the window? You can have a window. And I said, oh my God, amazing. And I was like, I'd love to create the backdrop that inspired the collection, which was the lane behind my house in Ireland, which was totally, totally overgrown. And we used to hang out there when we were teenagers and girls and boys and drinking and smoking and all these things. And I just, it was like, it was so amazing that they were like, yeah, you don't need to put clothes in the window. I was like, I'd love to make this installation. And it was the very first one we did. We made a mini one all out of dried moss that went on an airplane to Tokyo to be approved by Ray for the window. And then
wow.
once it was approved in London, in a studio that I moved out of, I think 7 years ago, we ended up building this huge blob, myself and the design team. And we literally we were drying flowers from the ceiling. We had all this moss and we built it, made it all out of chicken wire and like threaded the whole thing through. And
Okay.
yeah, it was actually, it was amazing. It had this really vibrant smell and it smelled very like Irish. It smelled kind of like wet almost.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really, really amazing to do that at the beginning. And then it's something that we've translated throughout the seasons. So yeah, no, it's amazing how they can become their own sculptures, very much like you do.
Um, it's time to choose one more flower, Simone's.
Amazing.
Now, after I've kind of got to this point, I would add like a pop of color in here because we've got kind of a soft palette. And as you said, it's always nice when things are a little bit unexpected or have little pops of interest. So for the pop of color, I've got either red charm peony or this beautiful mini magnolia.
Oh, amazing. Oh, so difficult, so spoiled. Um, maybe the magnolia.
I think it's a good choice. I mean, you know, we all love peonies, but this is actually really special. This was a gift from the grower, and
Okay, amazing.
so I'm going to come round because I need to have a look. But the pop of color, I only really add like one or two little things. I mean, it's quite unusual that I would have a mixed arrangement like this in my house almost ever. I mean, before the lockdown, I actually never brought flowers home. I only had them at my studio, and I've kind of been rediscovering how nice it could be to have, yeah, flowers in the house. And usually I would have something a little bit more reduced, but today I wanted to make something a little bit more extra.
Yeah, I've
Um,
never seen dark magnolia like that.
it's a really unusual variety. The color is so beautiful. Actually, really reminds me of the flowers on the coat. It's a little bit darker, but it's got the same kind of structure as those.
Oh,
Um, in this line of movement, I would probably, you know, want to continue the magnolia, so it also looks like it's flowing together in one sort of large piece. But it doesn't need much, I don't think. I might put this, but I'm going to cut it a bit shorter. Um,
and do you source all your flowers from different growers or the same growers? And how has it been in lockdown? Because have they been able to produce and get it to you, etc.?
well, to be honest, usually I do most of my shopping at the flower market, but the lockdown has definitely encouraged me to find other ways to find flowers because there was a few weeks where I wasn't open. And yeah, I've got a couple of local suppliers which have really beautiful things, but we went out into the surrounding areas of Berlin, to Brandenburg and Potsdam. We did a lot of foraging. Um, you know, it's really the most beautiful time for flowers on the street. I'm sure you've seen it in London, like the wisteria, the roses, like it's kind of an overwhelming time of year for flowers. So I felt super spoiled for choice. Um, but this is a mix of flowers from the market, some local growers, and some of my own plants from my balcony as well.
Yeah,
Um,
beautiful.
so this is the last step already. I mean, I'm pretty happy with how that looks.
Yeah,
I
nice.
always want to add something kind of a bit contrasting. So we've got a lot of gardeny flowers here, and now it's time to add something a little bit more crazy and sinister.
Mm-hmm.
I've got this slipper orchid. I've got these variegated caladium leaves, and I have these pitcher plants.
Amazing. I
You can choose more than one, actually.
maybe the orchid and the picture. I
Let's
think
do it. I think
are
it's a good choice.
yeah,
Um,
beautiful.
and so, do you cut most of your flowers from your garden, or?
Once the garden comes into bloom, I do a lot of cuttings. A really good friend of mine actually planted my whole garden for me. He's an
Oh,
amazing
that's
um,
beautiful.
uh, garden landscape designer. Um, but so we discussed it a lot together when I moved into this house and wanted a real mix of he planted it in a way that throughout the year there's a lot of different kind of heights and different things bloom at different times. So at the moment are like the cousin of the carrot flowers out. We had tulips,
Oh,
really beautiful like dark purple Paris tulips. Then the roses have just started coming out. So yeah, I do a lot of cuttings from the garden, and then I live in my studios in East London, so I'm also close to Columbia Road Flower Market. Or
Yeah.
if you're willing to make the trek to Marylebone Farmers Market, there is an amazing um, person there who sells the garden roses, and that's where I actually bought them. Yeah.
I mean, how special to plan your garden from scratch. That's like a lifelong dream of mine, is to have a garden and work on it like that.
Yeah, it was amazing, and yeah, he did an incredible job. There were just two apple trees in it, and
Okay.
yeah, now it's a flora of different different grasses, flowers.
Well, the arrangement's kind of finished. Can you see a little bit of the collection in the flowers?
100%. I also think it's got a beautiful kind of relationship because you're wearing one of the pieces with the tulle and then the embroidered daisy. And I think it's amazing. You can see the relationship between it being slightly dense, but then also quite fine. I love the spread. I love the mix of the two vases together. And yeah, I'm just very jealous it's not in my house.
Oh.
um,
I'll send you something nice. That was really fun. Thanks so much for helping me make that arrangement. Should we see if there's any?
Yeah, I believe there's going to be some questions. If anyone has any questions for myself and Ruby, we have a little bit of time to answer maybe one each. See if I can see.
I just had a question where we're based. I'm based in Berlin, and
I'm based in London. I can't see any questions. No, this is also my technical experience is low.
yeah, I'm trying to see it on my phone, but there's something not quite right with the messages on the phone. Simone, it was so lovely to talk to you. It's such a pleasure, and thank you for all your help and all that beautiful inspiration. And yeah.
Likewise, it was a real joy, and honestly, it's so beautiful to see how to put it together. And yeah, I hope everyone who's watching had a little bit of insight and enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you so much, Ruby.
Thank you so much, Simone. Bye bye. Ciao.